So let me think. How do I want to do this? Oh my God. Well, let's get started with this.
Let's get started.
All right, welcome back. I've been sick for like 2.5 months now, and we're going to record with one of my favorite humans on earth, Annie. And she'd agreed to come in and talk to me, like all my guests do, about her amazing life and things that you may not know. And I want you to know, and things that she can share. And she has a lot of exciting things going on that I didn't even know. And I've known her now for, geez Louise, like a year, but more intimately, I guess, on a friendship level, like for like the last couple months. So thanks for coming, Annie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
I know.
I'm happy to be here.
And you'll have to forgive me if I get a little goofy, because that's just like kind of how I keep things going. That's just like my energy. I get silly.
But I like that.
Yeah.
That's what makes you you, and it makes it fun.
I know, right? You know, kids have played together, and I had never really had the opportunity to get to know you better. And I'm kind of grateful that I did, because it's kind of opened up a whole world. I mean, we have a lot of similarities in the way that we think and the way that we approach life. And that's always refreshing. And I don't know, did you watch the episode on manifesting at all yet?
On your podcast?
Mhm.
Not yet, no.
Yeah.
But it's fun that I think like attracts like. So
Yes.
it's fun to meet people that are in the same zone.
Well, that was all about that. And it was about just focusing on the things that you want to bring into your life. And I have been focusing, one of my focus this year was growth and growing better friendships. And, you know, just what you focus on grows.
Yes.
And so I wanted to focus on things and people that I thought were kind of in the same place. And I'm just so grateful.
No, I'm so thankful that you reached out, because we definitely connected over the AWE Women's event in January, the
that was
Anderson Women's
amazing.
event, which is called AWE. And you came, which I was so glad that you came to it.
Yeah,
And
it
then
was so
you afterwards followed up. And like that says a lot, because there's a difference admiring, somebody or wanting to get to know them better, and then also having that person make the effort to do so. And so I'm grateful for that as well. So, and you live within walking distance.
I know.
It's kind of silly, like how close you are. So it makes a lot of sense. So I'm really excited to be here.
I know. It was, that event was really awesome. That was, I think, me stepping out of my comfort zone and also just wanting to be more involved. And it's impressive that you did that. And I'm excited to get into that space with you with planning for next year's, because I think it was really fun. And I think it's beneficial. I think women need to support each other more and be there for each other more in the capacity that we can, obviously, because women are super busy being moms and wives and business people. Speaking of, that's why I wanted to talk to you about what's going on with you, because not only are you a mom and a wife and an attorney, and you work for the Anderson Chamber, and you're writing a book, like all the things, like how do you manage all of these things?
Some days better than others. I feel fortunate that I have a lot of support in my household, also through extended family when needed. My mother is a great support of me and helps me out with kids stuff a lot of the times, like rides and just kind of being there. It takes a village for sure. But I've learned over the past, probably, God, who knows, maybe 5-10 years of like focusing where my true kind of passion is, or my intention. If I set an intention for something or a goal, then I'm trying to make progress towards that. So like focusing my time and energy that way is something that I've just learned to kind of do over time. And it's not always perfect by any means. It's a daily practice, but it's a lot. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like just being a woman in the world today is a lot. And being a mom or having a small business or even just working for someone else, having a job, a full-time job, or even a part-time job, and trying to balance it all it's a lot.
I know. You're moving so fast.
I give everybody as much grace as I can in the world, because I am just impressed by so many people in our community, in our local, but also in our world. Like women truly hold the sky up. And I we have to give ourselves more credit as well as claim more space for ourselves in the
Yeah.
future.
I think that has been an area that I have struggled with is like claiming or being okay with taking up space
Yeah.
or like being proud of the things. It was like even when you and I just had our like brief conversation, I just asked her to look over something that I made. It was like a brief summary of like my resume and it's like ridiculous. And she was, super honest, like this can be better. And I was like, I know, I really don't know how to make it better because I really struggle with putting myself on paper,
Yeah.
and that feeling of inadequacy as a woman or just in general trying to add up to other people. So I don't know. Speaking of, I mean, you did all the things that I never did. You went to college, you graduated, you got a degree to do something that you're doing, law, which I think
hmm
is amazing. Did you always have a passion for that, like when you were younger?
I think I always had a passion for what's right in the world or the justice aspect of it, of law. I love also to write and communicate. I think those are my strengths.
Mhm.
So being in the field of, the legal field, you do all that. I mean, you
Mhm.
write, you speak, you try to communicate your point, you try to persuade, in an argument setting, if that's the kind of lawyer you are. But I will say, I think early on, the drive was stability. And I grew up, my parents got divorced when I was elementary, junior high, high school, kind of like in there, that range. And I saw my mom, who had been a stay at home mom and then had to go back to work. Well, my brother and I were still, in adolescence. And my brother was actually pretty young at the time. I was a little older, and I just saw kind of a insecurity and instability issue pop up with finances and support and like logistics and all of that in her life. And I just was like, no way, no way am I gonna be in that situation. So I really kind of tried to find a career that made sense for me to know that I would at least have some financial stability built into it. And I mean, looking back on that now, it's kind of like, okay, well, I see what drove me there, but it wasn't necessarily like a big passion for the law.
That's what I was
And
going to ask you.
yeah.
If you felt like, did at that time have any thought of, does this align with my life passions or just like things that like make me happy? Because
No.
I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that where they're like, well, I feel like I have to do this. I have to be a doctor because my mom and dad said so, or
Mhm.
I have to be an attorney because they're an attorney, or I have to be whatever. So when you
Mhm.
picked that, was it just because you had a perception of what the law and legal field provided stability?
Sure. Yeah, and prestige. So
Yeah.
it was like I'm definitely someone that looked around as a kid and clued into what was, society's or culture's, value of
Yep.
something.
Yep.
And so when we were growing up, it was like doctor, lawyer. I mean,
Yep.
my friend always jokes like in the 80s and 90s, it was also airline pilots, were
Yeah.
like revered. So it was like any of those career paths just seemed like, well, you will be put on a pedestal of some
Yep.
sort. You will be looked at as, successful and dignified and like you
Yes.
did the right things. And
Yes.
so I definitely followed that a little bit as a people pleaser,
Yeah.
as a performer in life. And I was like naturally inclined achiever. So I mean I was academically achieving and stuff. So it just was
Yeah.
like, oh well, this kind of makes sense. But it was not because I even understood necessarily what a career as a lawyer looked like
Yeah.
at the end of the day. I tried to learn a little bit before I went to law school as far as like, what does that even look like? But honestly, I think when you're that young, unless you are
Right.
very self aware and you've healed yourself and dealt with all your trauma,
Right. Your brain's not
right?
fully developed, but have you healed?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like if you can do that healing at age like by age 18, like
Good
more power
luck.
to you.
Right.
But I think at that point in my life, I was just like, yeah, this sounds good. And yeah, I sure I want that. And I thought I did. And I think I did for a
Yeah.
while. I think there is a part of me that really loves learning. And
Yeah.
so learning all the in law school and learning all of that, like I liked school for the most part. I
Yeah.
kind of did it. at times I was sick of it, but overall, like there was definitely a part of me that was the learner. And so the achiever, the learner, and then you get to that benchmark and you have your law degree and like then you're like,
Yeah.
now what? And so
So,
I
but
started
when
practicing.
your law degree though, like you're
Mhm,
talking about like a sense of right and wrong,
mhm,
which I totally resonate with. And people have said to me before, you know, even like I was involved with a litigation attorney at
mhm,
one point in my life, and he was always like, "You should have been an attorney," and I was like, "No," because I do
mhm,
not want to do all that paperwork and all
mhm.
that digging and all that all that stuff. We think about attorneys in the sense of like being in court and arguing, but you do a really unique facet, I feel like. So, how did you find yourself in that?
Sure. So right now, where I am with my firm, we do estate planning,
Yeah.
elder law, and special needs planning. So
Oh, okay.
it's definitely more on the advocacy side
Yeah.
and more paperwork, but paperwork side than it is. I
You're
never
not
go
in
to
court.
court. I'm not
Right.
arguing.
Right.
I'm not doing those kinds of things. So it's very much more a planning, strategizing for people's future, like figuring out
Yeah.
what's going to work in a puzzle kind of situation with them.
Yeah.
And so I found myself into that through a series of different switches with different law firms, meaning like I started out in one thing at one law firm, then we moved to
Oh,
Cincinnati, and
okay.
then I switched into a different practice area when I moved to Cincinnati. And so I switched a few times. It
And you
ended
can
up.
do that?
Yep,
Like,
you can. It's not always the easiest to do,
right.
but I was young enough and
Hmm.
early enough in my career where I could make it work.
Hmm.
And before I went out on my own at
Hmm.
my own firm, I was doing a mishmash of kind of like in the area of special needs planning, settlement planning, corporate governance issues in a company. So I've had a kind of a wide
Oh,
variety of
yeah. Look at
experiences.
you.
And so when I went out to start my own firm, it kind of made sense to do these things because I could do them remotely if needed.
Yeah. I love
I
that.
didn't have to go to
Hmm.
court. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't a whole lot of upstart, and I knew them and I
Yeah.
was good at them. So I always say to people, I do some mentoring for high school and college kids
Hmm.
once in a while. And I'm always like, listen, like every job that you have is going to teach you something,
Hmm.
right? You may hate it and you may be like, this is absolutely not the right fit for me,
Right.
which is probably, it can be true for sure. I had those jobs too. But at every single one, I learned something that allowed me to like eventually start my own business
Yeah.
and translate those skills.
Absolutely.
So I think there's something important to take. But yeah, so I did start in one area of law, ended up in the where I am today and doing that for clients of all ages and figuring that out.
So, from the time you graduated until you decided to do you and
Hmm.
have your own practice because you can do it the right way in the way that you want it to be
Right.
done, you know
Sure.
what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, what did it look like being a female attorney in what sometimes feels like a man's world?
Sure. I don't know if sometimes is the right word. I think it's still very much, especially in the legal field, I think it's very much a more of a patriarchal world. Unfortunately, in a lot of places, I found myself several times in firms where it was a boys' club, and I would
Hmm.
term it that way. Very, honestly, that's how it felt, and
Yeah.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was always kind of the probably like the thorn in their side. I did not want to always play by the agendas or the rules.
You're
I
not a
don't
yes,
do
sir kind
no,
of
I don't
girl.
do well with authority. So it was always kind of I was itchy to not be in that situation, and they were probably, itchy to not have me there anymore. I kid you not, in 2008, maybe, I was told on a July summer day in Cincinnati, asked why I wasn't wearing pantyhose.
Oh,
Yes.
gross.
So these are things that still happened in 2008 in Cincinnati. So very much, I don't know how much of that is still around, but the attitude is probably still around. And there's definitely it's hard. I think you have to work harder to prove yourself as
Yeah,
a woman
I
attorney.
totally agree.
Even this is even in my own firm. It's me. It's just me, and I have a full-time employee. But I went into a client meeting with an elderly couple, and the man, the husband, asked me, "Is it your dad or your husband?" And I said, "What?
Oh my God.
What? What do you mean? Is it my dad or my husband?" He goes, "Who owns the firm?"
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. This was like 2 years ago.
I
And
mean, you look very youthful, don't get me
I
wrong.
said,
Like,
"It's me.
you're
I own the firm."
it's mine.
Yes, you're talking to the attorney that you booked your appointment with.
I'm losing it.
And then his wife, the woman was like, "Oh, well, bless your heart."
Oh my God.
I was like,
Probably because she never had to work.
and this is what is wrong with our culture. So, yeah,
Oh,
they were a
jeez
little surprised, I
Louise.
think, to be meeting the owner of the firm, and it
That
was
they
me.
hired.
Yeah, that they hired. It
Oh
was
my
it
God.
was absurd. But so yes, I think we have
Wow.
women attorneys, women in general. I think when you come into a professional setting, often just have to kind of,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. I don't want to say work harder because I think I just work as hard as I do all the time. But I think it's one
No,
of those.
work harder than the average person is what you mean. Not work harder than you would work. Work harder than, like, say, that average male person that
Yeah.
walks in the door. I'll say
Well, I
it.
was going to say, I think there can a lot of mediocrity
Hmm.
over the years has gotten excused because of someone's being,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh,
a
I'm
male.
sure.
So,
Or nepotism or all the things. Well,
yes.
now you run the show and you still have people
Hmm.
occasionally
Yeah,
coming in.
once in a while, once in a while. So,
I'm just kind of dying to know, did they like hire you?
oh yes, I did all their work for
I
them. Yeah, they
freaking
were
love it.
clients for sure.
That's the best part.
Yeah, a
Because
hundred
that is like
percent.
the cherry on top for me.
Yeah.
So they had to like deal with their own self
Well,
in
I
that
just wonder
situation.
what their conversation was after that, or if it was just like, well, good for her. I have no idea. I
Right.
have no idea how that.
How that pans out.
Right.
That's
But
insane.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you went like the rest of us through COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
when you went through COVID, I mean, you kind of also, was that around the time where you kind of like felt like you were having an awakening about like what you want to do differently? Like maybe you wanted to go in this life coaching direction? Tell me, I think that's what you
Sure.
said.
So I probably in 2019,
Mhm.
somewhere in there, I was starting to get a little itchy of like, I don't think I want to full-time lawyer for the rest of my life. The subject matter that I deal with in elder law, estate planning, and special needs planning is essentially I'm dealing with death, disability, and disease on a daily basis, and it is heavy.
Yeah.
So I was starting to feel myself and my mindset really feel very kind of gray and hopeless and just not able to completely compartmentalize that so much anymore or shove it down and talking about death it just started to whittle at me a little bit. So I was already kind of thinking in 2019 like, well, what could I do differently or how could I broaden my reach or in a different way or what does that look like? And then COVID hit
Yep.
and we saw systems and institutions crumble within days. The calendar got cleared, things got canceled. We would sit in bed at night, my husband and I, like watching some dumb Netflix show because that's all you did during COVID.
I
And
remember.
time felt really weird. Like time felt
So
liquid. I
weird.
always felt like I was in some kind of suspension of liquid during that time. Like I didn't know what was going on. And we were just hobbling through, right?
Mhm.
So during that time, I started to just question everything. What is this? What am I doing? I unfortunately had many clients die during COVID.
So,
Some most from COVID, I
yeah.
believe, but or complications of,
Yeah.
and it was very hard to go into work and just have that kind of destruction happen.
Mm.
So I started to be like, okay, no,
I can't live like
this is too grim. This is making me focus too much on death all the time, this business. So I started exploring and thinking, okay, well, what do I want to do? And I started reading a lot, listening to a lot of podcasts, taking a lot of walks by myself with the dog, and thinking, and started to kind of feel out, well, what am I interested in? And that was even a whole new self-discovery. Like, I feel like in my 30s, I was building a life,
yeah.
in the weeds with little ones,
Yeah.
unable to see myself anymore, like just kind of like going through the
Yeah.
motions.
Like, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
going through the motions. And then I turned around and I'm about to turn 40 in 2020 at that time. And it was supposed to be this great year, you know, like 2020, and like everybody's going to do all this awesome stuff. And like I was training for a half marathon, and I was running, you know, all the time. And I was training a puppy, and I was running my business, and it was, you know, doing so well at the beginning of 2020. And then COVID hit and
Mhm.
everything kind of fell apart.
I
And it
know.
was like, oh, now what? And so basically I just started to question everything, read a lot, try to keep my head above water, and start thinking about, well, what do I like even? You know,
Mhm.
this is kind of an opportunity for me, which I guess is a great kind of first step, is like looking at something like COVID and being like, well, how is this for me? Like, what can I
Right.
do? What
Right.
can I do with this? Right.
Right.
Well, I can take the space and start really kind of digging in and like questioning it. So
Yeah.
that's where I, like you said, awakening, like that's
Yeah.
when I started to wake up a little bit and be
Yeah.
like, all right, I no longer have, you know, a baby
Yeah.
that I have to just let survive, you know, make survive. I can actually start thinking about other things a little bit. A little
Meanwhile,
bit.
meanwhile, I'm over there in my 40s with a baby
Right.
and COVID, trying to figure out my life and like keep everybody healthy. And my mom has autoimmune issues, and I'm sitting here having the anxiety of like the world and
Yeah.
everybody, you just and trying to figure out what's true and what's not. So it's like so funny
It was
that
terrible.
yeah, it was just crazy.
It was traumatizing, really, for everybody.
It
And
was like
so,
kind of surreal. I just remember sitting in my backyard. We had a hot tub at the time because the
mhm.
previous owner of our house had left a hot tub. And we would just like sit in the hot tub, lay in the hot tub. Like my whole life was like keeping the hot tub clean and ready and like making it like swim time for the kids. I mean,
Yeah.
like, and trying to get away from nursing for a little while. And that's so weird to think about. That's like,
Right.
that's what I was going through during that time.
Right.
Weirdo-ness. And then you're like, what am I going to do with my life?
Well,
A
I mean, it was just a lot of like, what is
lot of
happening?
downtime.
Yeah. And so once I started to dig in and figure out what I got energy from, where my passions were,
Mhm.
I started gravitating towards this concept of coaching, like life coaching. But I didn't know a whole lot about it. To be transparent, I had hired a coach, but it was more of a business coach when I first launched my law firm,
Right.
because I didn't want to spin my wheels unnecessarily. I wanted to have some guidance. And
Smart.
that person was super helpful to me and like helped me probably grow and succeed a lot faster than had I been doing it just by myself.
Mhm.
So I knew the value of it, and I knew that it would be like a good thing for people to have in their life if they can.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
I started getting interested in that, and I found this author and life coach named Martha Beck. And I had listened to her. She had just been kind of in the zeitgeist around other things. Like she had showed up on somebody's podcast in an interview, or they mentioned her book or something like that. So I started looking at her and her work, and she offered a life coaching course that was
Mm.
9 months long and kind of
Wow.
intense. And something just kept saying to me, you should do that. You should do that. You
I
should
love
sign
that.
up for that. And I was like, why? Like,
Why?
why am I going to do that? What is that going to do? Do I want to be a life coach? I don't know. So, I mean, it really probably took me about a year to make the decision to actually take the course. Like,
Really?
I kind of knew about it, and then I knew about her, and I was still just kind of questioning everything. Meanwhile, trying to still keep my law firm afloat, raise 3 kids in COVID times.
COVID.
Yeah. Keep everyone healthy. Like you said, like, it was a lot. And during this time, my dad was going through a second divorce, which was incredibly like he became very codependent on me.
Mm.
Like it was a lot during that time period. There was a lot of personal upheaval as
Yeah.
well with other events, and so I just was like, what am I doing? But this course kept saying, no, sign up, look into it, whatever. And so
I
I
love that.
I did. I looked into it, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, because I was like, you know what? If nothing else, then I will become a better communicator, a
Yeah.
better listener. I will learn tools to help others, maybe even in my law practice,
Yeah.
because a lot of my work is listening, like, to others and
Yeah.
what their needs are, and discerning what their problems are so I can help them solve them. But I just thought, there's not really a downside to taking this, except for just the time and the money to do
Yeah.
so. And I was like, okay, well,
Here we
I'm
go.
going to do it. And so I did. I signed up and I did it, and it was really amazing. I describe it as rewiring my brain. It caused me to think differently, dismantle so much in my own experience, that at the end of the day, I emerged kind of this. They call it, you're in the cocoon and you're like learning and you're like developing, and then you emerge a butterfly.
Yeah.
It sounds super cheesy, but it's kind of true. Like, you go into this little incubator of learning and kind of questioning all your own stuff.
Yeah.
And then you're different afterwards, in a good way. I mean, mine was, and I met amazing
Yeah.
people in my cohort that we had. It was all online, but it was, I mean, there was homework. I was up a lot of mornings at 5:30 on my couch doing my homework
I love
in the
that.
morning before I went to my other job
Right.
and got everybody up for school. So I put in the time. And then, in order to get certified, you had to do 75 hours of coaching, as well as a written test, and work with a mentor. So it was actually pretty serious and of a
Yeah.
course. And I finished that at the end of 2023. And so then I've just been coaching in 2024, as well as a lot of other kinds of writing projects, and figuring out what I want to do with it. I love coaching and doing that with others to help them reach goals or overcome problems and obstacles that they haven't been able to do on their own yet. And they just know that they need that guidance or that accountability
Right.
piece. So I've been doing that, and I'm still in my law firm, but I've pared down a little bit, and I'm really trying to focus on helping people in general improve their lives before it's too late
Yeah.
and they come to me to plan their,
Yeah.
the end, which I
Right.
don't want to do all the time, but I have to right now. And so, I mean, one of the reasons that I love this contrast is that I'm usually helping people that are at the either kind of the end of their life or planning for what
For
would happen after they pass away.
yeah.
And a lot of them come in with regrets, and a lot of them come in with questions. And it's sad at times. It's, disappointing for them as to where they are in life. And a lot of my clients thought, oh, well, I'll just, work really hard and never, take that vacation or never do these things. And then, maybe they're in a couple or something, and one of them gets
Yeah.
dementia, and then they
Oh,
can't
it's the
do it,
worst. I know.
or they no, it's not the same, right? So I just hated seeing those regrets, and I hated that the focus was on waiting for something, whereas through coaching, I really want people to live into the richness of their life today.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, let's do what's we're only here for a little bit. We
You
don't
only
even
have
know.
now. You don't even know if tomorrow comes.
Yep.
I think that's the really challenging piece about our existence. There's a group of us who kind of have deferred mindset, like, well, tomorrow's going to be better. Well, today's hard, so tomorrow's going to be better. It's like a coping mechanism. And then
Mhm.
you have other people who are like always looking in the past and, oh, I wish I would have done this. And, oh, I wish I would have done that. And
Mhm.
they don't live in the moment now because they're so busy looking in the rearview mirror
Mhm.
on things that you can't change.
No.
And unfortunately, both of those are a little broken because they're not focusing on right now, in the moment, where we live,
Mhm.
what can we do with right now?
Mhm.
And everybody's journey to, I think, that space of living in the now is so different. I think for me, through my life experience, a lot of my it's going to be better kind of mindset was a coping uh,
Mhm.
given like some things that happened in my life, it's definitely always going to get better. And it always did. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it always did. So I'd rather be on that side of it where,
Sure.
you know what I mean? But I think that that space where people are willing to sit and it's uncomfortable
Mm-hmm.
instead of being distracted by devices or the TikToks or all of the like things they're like continually consuming and distracting their brains from
Mm-hmm.
accomplishing the goals that they want to accomplish with their life.
Mm-hmm.
And in kind of speaking into that, it's like I decided I wanted to only consume to create with the intention of understanding, learning to
Mm-hmm.
create. I guess I'm like, I love learning too. I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what you and I kind of have in common too. I love to learn
Mm-hmm.
and I'm an asshole or a
I love that.
question queen. So when I got hospitalized recently, one of the girls in the ER, I am so naturally curious.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I read everybody's name tags and I have to distract myself. So I'm like reading her name tag and it said question queen. And immediately I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm like waiting to ask her, like, oh my gosh, can I ask her what this means? Because I think this is amazing. And she said, I am just really curious. She said, I
Mm-hmm.
ask all the questions. I said, oh my God, I call myself a professional asshole. This is like right in my lane. I feel so understood right now. And she said, like at work, like it would get to a point where people would shut her down and be like, you're at your question quota for the day.
Oh my gosh.
I would die if somebody told me
Right.
that. But anyways, back to like living in the now and learning and what you're doing. And, you know, do you feel like some of your coaching is gonna have to help people live in that uncomfortable space of like what we're doing right now, like the right now moments?
Yes. I think I love that you touched on the forward looking, the backward looking, and kind
Mhm.
of being present in the moment. I think there's such value in if they can notice for themselves that they're living in a story that's behind them.
Yeah.
Um, and then if they're not actually doing the work to get to what they want in the future,
Yeah.
is it's there's that tension, right? So I agree that there's this living in the present, being curious. And then if there is a vision or a hope for the future, like, oh, it's going to get better, well, it will, typically does. But what are you doing today? Even in the smallest shift, right? You and I
Yep.
have talked about this. It's like, even it could be changing what you say to your kid when they walk in the door. It can be the smallest of littlest things that you start to take these turns
Yep.
that are so small. Martha Beck also calls them turtle steps. It's like taking
And
one,
you have a
and I have a
turtle. I
tortoise
know. I was like,
too.
now you have a turtle.
We'll
I
call
could
them strawberry steps. Strawberry is the name
strawberry
of the
steps.
tortoise. But
I
if
love
you're
it.
taking like teeny tiny steps, that's okay, because eventually where you end up is going to be totally different than where you started. And it just even changing direction a little bit is going to be such a difference. So yes, in coaching we do a lot of kind of busting up those limitations that are perceived,
Mhm.
that somebody might think, well, I can't do that because X, Y, and Z, or I'm not good enough, or like you said, I you said something about, women feeling like we're not
Mhm.
worth,
Mhm.
our worth or our value or something. Yeah, these are all limiting beliefs that we can bust through, but it takes work. I want to I want to kind of get back to like when I was doing all that self reflection and dismantling of
Mhm.
like all of my beliefs. This was not fun. Like, this was
It's
definitely
work.
a lot of work and a lot of upset in my
Mhm.
own thinking and beliefs, and some sleepless nights.
Yep.
And I obviously, as a coach, want to help clients not have as
As
much
much.
much pain
Right.
doing it, but it's work. But it's, I think, some of the most worthwhile work that a person can do,
I agree.
because I think that when I really woke up, and I had been kind of starting to, but when I
Mhm.
really did, I was like, this doesn't feel right. What I am doing right now in total, with a lot of different things, did not feel right. And it
Right.
wasn't just the career or
No,
the
right.
work on a daily basis. There were other things obviously that
It's
didn't
like
feel
you,
right.
like if focusing, you wake up and you realize I'm not even focused on myself. Like I'm not even a person in my own story.
Right. And that's a great way to say it. Like,
Yeah.
you're just like, what do they what is that they're saying is the NPC or like non-player characters or something
Yes.
like that.
Yes,
Yes.
literally. Especially
Yes.
women do this so bad. And I think this is why when their kids grow up and they move out, they freak out. Like a lot of women will freak
Hmm.
out because they have no purpose anymore
Right.
because they never spent time creating an identity, creating
Hmm.
a person that they could love that was themselves. They
Yes.
only thought they were valuable by being a mom, by being a wife, by being
Hmm.
an earner or whatever. And
Yeah.
so they never learned how to love themselves. And then they freak out.
Hmm.
And I don't want women to go through that.
Nope, me neither. And so that's honestly, that comes up a lot in coaching. So it's
Mhm.
figuring out who you are, what you like, and what brings you joy and satisfaction and peace. And there's a lot of curiosity there. I know you had a word, your word for the year is what, growth or
Growth.
growth.
Mhm.
Yeah, uh-huh. Love that. Mine is creativity.
I love
And
it.
then kind of a secondary word is curiosity.
I
Like
love
I
it.
want to remain creative and curious because that is where I'm finding such amazing kind of joy, insights, just
Mhm.
learning and
Yeah,
just growing. Because I think when you kind of stop learning, being creative, that's going to be the death of our
I
world.
know.
Do you mean it's not,
I
it's
know.
when we can't be creative and curious anymore,
Mhm.
even about one another, that's
Yes.
when stuff starts to go downhill, right?
Deteriorate.
Yeah,
Mhm.
deteriorate. So I really encourage my clients in coaching to remain curious and just look around. And that is also, Martha Beck also just came out with a new book called Beyond Anxiety,
Oh,
that
interesting.
curiosity and creativity are the antidote to anxiety
Really?
because you can't hold both at once.
Ooh.
And so if you are in an anxiety spiral, as she calls it, getting curious and creative can help you get out of it
Yeah,
a
because 'cause you're
lot
changing
sooner.
your focus.
You're changing it. Yes.
Interesting.
And
Oh,
it's
I
a
love
great
that.
book. I finished it recently and it's helpful because you think about how our culture is very anxious in
Yeah.
general
Oh, yeah.
and anxiety stunts creativity. It doesn't
Yeah.
allow for it. So if we flip it
I agree.
and
That's totally true.
get
Anybody I
out of
know
it.
that's like super anxious or
Hmm.
super anxiety driven all the time, they're not creative people.
Right. Well, and even just like your thing being in gardening or, planting things, that's a form of creativity.
Yeah.
It's getting out there and being creative with your garden. And they said it can be anything. It's not like you have to sit down and draw or paint. It's like you
No.
can, but you could also make bracelets. You could also cook something or bake something. People get really into that, but it's
Just learn something new because I have so many friends who are like, I'm not creative. And I'm like, just because you're not crafty doesn't mean you're not creative, or just
right.
because you're not an artist or you're not a singer or you're not whatever, it doesn't
Oh,
mean you're not
yeah.
creative. I think people need to learn all encompassing creativity
Yes.
that you're talking about.
It can be anything. I mean, it could be anything that you're creating, or it could even be learning an instrument or like any of it. So it's very healing to be creative. And
Yeah.
so I am trying to hold that space for myself this year
Hmm.
because 2024 was a lot for me of like executing things and organizing things and building things inside my practice, but also in the community and like for this new business as well for coaching. And I want this year 2025 to just be a lot more of holding space for myself, creating, remaining curious, and not being as maybe logistical or tactical as I was in 2024. But
So like maybe like a little more like loose, like letting your hair down a little bit.
yeah, right. No, I mean, just kind of listening to what I am really passionate about doing in that moment. And it takes a lot of listening to yourself and giving yourself the space to make a decision with really your full body.
Yeah.
I had to make a decision the other day that was going to impact, like my kid and like some other stuff. And it wasn't a full body yes for me. And I really examined it to make sure, there wasn't something that was holding me back, that some like limiting story or something like that.
Right. Oh,
But
good.
at the end of the day, it was the right decision. But I think that maybe a year or two ago, I would have rushed into it or not, made the same decision because I would have felt bad or
Yeah.
guilty or something. And there was this phrase that somebody, I don't remember where I heard it. It was recently though. It was like the power of the pause. And I need to do that more because I'm such a recovering people pleaser that I never let myself pause before
Yeah.
saying yes to something. I do
Yeah.
now, but like for so long I did not. And it would
Yeah.
just be like, yes, of course I'll do that, or I'll help you out, or whatever. I'll do that for the group, or let me take that on. Now it's more like, okay, well, let me pause and think about that and see
That's fascinating.
where my body feels with that and where my mind and heart feel with that.
That's an interesting thought because for someone like myself who is ADHD and like go, 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 go all the time. And like I'm always like go, go, go. And I'm always like kind of doing that thing where I'm like, yes, yes, yes. You know, that pause can be really powerful. Just for anybody in general. I mean, like hearing what you're saying and thinking about how that pause is meaningful to you,
Mm-hmm.
but then thinking how that same pause for me is meaningful to me
Mm-hmm.
because I have been pausing a lot,
Good.
especially while I've been sick. I didn't really have a choice,
Mm-hmm.
but like really pausing and really evaluating my interactions with people, my expectations of people, my overall contributions to people, and trying to
Mm-hmm.
decide, is this a Tiffany problem or is this like an inequity? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I used to take on so many inequities,
Mm-hmm.
like because of the people pleaser and because of the need to feel loved and appreciated or seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so making those pauses for me has meant having boundaries.
Yes, there's definitely that ring of boundaries around that pause, right? Because you're protecting your own peace.
And I've
Yeah.
never like known how to do that. So it was like it's been really, really weird and like
Mm-hmm.
cool and empowering, but like also sometimes my husband probably feels like my therapist because I'm like, is this a me thing? Or I'm going to do this. And like, this is how I'm going to do this now. And he's always like helping me clarify.
Sure.
I think it's really, good that you have such a supportive partner. And I'm very
Mm-hmm.
fortunate that I do too. But before I get off of track on that real quick, I know that you have decided to start writing a book and I have like a couple questions around it. I'm just going to
Sure.
fire them off and then you can answer them however you want.
Okay.
First, I want to know what the book's about. And then secondly, I want to know what caused you to want to create it. And are you working with like a publishing group to help you? Because I just had an author on here and I learned a lot of stuff for you and I might
Okay.
have to share with you. So those are my 3 questions.
Woo.
I know.
Well, good questions. Let me start with the fact that I have been writing little books since I was probably in fourth or fifth grade. Nothing
That's
obviously
amazing.
formal, but this was always me being a little writer, a little creative writer. I have always written journals, little stories, journal for my own, therapy, just try to like get my own feelings out. So I've always been a writer. I had a limiting belief for many years that like a book was out of reach for me. Like I just never, I don't have anything to say, or it's going to take too long to do, or I'm just not good enough of a writer, to do it, which is just ludicrous because if you read half the stuff that's out there, you're like, wait, what?
I'm
This
just
person
curious.
wrote a book?
Well, yeah, I'm just curious because the author I just had on, she said she always kept postponing it because she felt like the story had to be finished before she could start. And I'm curious if you had that same
Oh.
opinion.
No, mine is more my personal limitation is that am I going to say it in a way that no one said it before? Is my voice truly enough to put out there? Like will people want to even read it? So I had to, in order to get in the mindset of writing an actual piece that I hope someday will, get published, I had to throw that out. I have to be like, no, I'm not writing for anyone else at this point. I'm writing for myself and I'm going to put it out there. My goal by the end of the year is to have what Anne Lamott, who's an author, says is a shitty first draft.
I love that so much.
And that is my goal by the end of 2025 is to have that draft and then go from there. The book is about, it's kind of a memoir. It's more about the journey of growing up as I don't even know me, but it's more about transforming into taking that space as maybe a career shift or how our culture groomed me maybe for one thing.
Mhm.
And when COVID hit, the realization was very stark contrast of what I really wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
I also last summer in 2024 took a very life-changing trip to Africa, and that gave me a lot of perspective on the direction that I want to take my life, but also how I show up in the world and being authentic and true to myself. And so there's aspects of that in the work as well. So I can't tell you exactly what it's about, but there's a journey and a story and a through line there about kind of self identification,
Discovery.
transformation, discovery, growth. And I hope some of it resonates for others, because I think they're always, it's that cliche of the midlife crisis and all of that.
You're
But
so
I
funny.
think in this day and age, it's really more of an awakening for women, because we were very much placated to sleep through our
Our lives.
adolescence and 20s, and even like what was expected of us. And I don't know that it's the same for the generations below us, the ones that
Right.
are coming up. I think they have a very different experience, as they should. I mean, we're all generationally different, and we're
Yeah.
growing up in different times. I
Yeah.
mean, shit, you and I didn't even have like email probably until
I swear to God, like almost college,
yeah,
right? Okay.
exactly. So
Thank you.
it's a very different life. I think there is this idea of, like you said, you turn around one day and you can feel like you are a non-essential player in your own story,
Yeah.
and that you're looking at it from a distance, and it doesn't feel right as much as you would like it to,
Yeah.
and not to say like, I think I always hate when people are like, well, I really, I just love my family. And I'm like, of course you do. That's a given.
Right.
Like,
Like,
nobody's,
duh.
nobody's questioning that. You can
It's
still
like they
love your
feel like that
family.
validates them. Like that's their like, here, I'm here to play. This is my award or this is my badge. Like I'm an FBI agent. I love my family. Okay, cool. So do I. But also like that doesn't mean that they define what my heart and my soul wants. Like what did I want before I had kids?
Right.
What do I want after I'm done raising them? Like, come
Right.
on now. Like you have desires in your heart
Mm-hmm.
for your own life. And maybe being a parent has like stalled those and like
Mm-hmm.
distracted you. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you be authentic, live your best life
Mm-hmm.
while giving to other people all the time? How can you
Yeah.
find ways to fill your cup? Because that's what I struggled with. I
Mm-hmm.
kept finding like my cup was empty and I was only successful at filling my cup when I was alone, like not in
Mm-hmm.
relationships. I felt like every time I got into a relationship, I just automatically went right back into that people pleaser person
Mm-hmm.
because I was single. I don't know if I told you. So, like, I was married and I got divorced really young. Like, by the
Mm-hmm.
time I was 26 years old, 27, I had two kids and I was
Mm-hmm.
already divorced,
Mm-hmm.
which most people can't say. Most of my high school friends are like, I've been married for 20 years. And I'm like, I've been a mom for 25 years. I'm like, so the whole finding
Yeah.
myself resonates with me on like a major level because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I spent my whole life, because now I have toddlers, and my only existence was always to serve other people all the time,
Mm-hmm.
like I literally, who am I? I am literally a servant of
Mm-hmm.
but making other people come before me.
Mm-hmm.
And am I going to be very happy? Probably not. And am I going to be a good parent if I'm very unhappy? Probably not. So started doing the work, like you said, started doing the self-reflection. And I think that that's what your memoir could speak to. You have a very different experience than me, but like at the same point in time, just because the storyline's different, it's still the same core. That thread is still the
Oh yeah,
same.
the theme is
Self-discovery.
there.
Yeah, it's all there.
And I think what you just said is so resonates so much too with people, is that you spend so much time, well, and energy serving
Yeah.
others. And we were made to feel like that was our purpose
Yes,
as
that was
women,
our
girls
purpose.
being raised in the
Yes.
time that we were. And I mean, my poor grandmother, she had 16 children.
Oh my God.
It was an
Like she
Irish
gave,
Catholic situation, not a
huh,
Duggar situation,
did she
but
like literally give birth to all those
she
children?
did. And there was only one set of twins in the mix.
Oh my Lord.
Yes. And
That's
that
amazing.
woman, she died, I think, when she was 67, I think. And I think about her all the time. I think about
Wow.
her because they all, like all her children, but also other people that knew her, it was always like, well, she was so selfless. I'm like, yeah, no shit. She couldn't have herself.
Right.
Okay, she had no self by the end because she was busy all the time
Yeah.
serving others. And that is not to say that she did not like love her family and want to
Right.
do that. But there
Right.
is a piece where if you do not take the space and the time for yourself in some way, shape, or form, find your passions, find your satisfaction, what brings you peace and ease and joy, and what makes you curious, what even
Yes.
pulls your focus so
Yes.
that you're enjoying something.
Enjoying your life.
Yes.
It is your life. I mean, ultimately, yes, if you give birth to other, you give birth to humans and you love them and they become a part of your life story, but they can't be your entire life story. And I just feel like that
Yes.
is what we're breaking that glass ceiling that women prior to us were so trained
Yes.
that that was our identity and that was the only identity that we were allowed to have. And I think we're really just shattering that into pieces and saying, no, it's okay for us to want more than just being a wife or a mom. It's okay for us to like have passions and for us to like do things that are
Yeah.
outside of hobbies. Oh my God, God forbid we have a hobby.
Well, no kidding. And it's also so in my journey to Africa, how I got there, and I'm not talking like plane ticket and like that kind of stuff. I'm
Right.
talking like how did I get my mind in a place
Mhm.
where I thought, yeah, I'm going to take the time and the money to go do this on my own. Like it
Yeah.
was me. I went there, not
Yeah.
my family.
Right.
And that was a mindset shift that I had to make. Like, it was not a simple thing where I was like, oh, of course I'll go do this. No, no.
No.
There was a lot of kind of self reflection, self, doubt in that process of figuring out, well, why would I think I could go and do this
Yes.
or what? And by the end of the day, I kind of figured out like, oh, I've been living my life in such a way that I bend myself into pretzels in order to not disrupt the status quo for others.
Yes.
And I'm not doing that anymore.
I
But
love that.
it took a lot to
And
get there. And I'm
here's
not saying that in like in a selfish way. It's that everyone is entitled to have their own autonomy and direction and interests and honor those. And I would do the same if my husband wanted to do some kind of journey like that. I'd be like, yes,
yes.
go ahead. Like,
Yes.
I support you. And if I love this because Glennon Doyle had this quote in, I think it was Untamed, about how she was debating whether or not she should leave her husband. And she was looking at her daughter in the mirror, doing her daughter's hair. And she said, would I want this marriage for her?
Ooh.
And the answer was no. So she
Ooh.
was like, why am I holding on to it then if I would never
Want
want
that
it
for
for
my
my
daughter.
child? And so it's this idea where like if it was my kids that were wanting to do this journey or like wanting to go to Africa or do the trip that I had just done, I would have pushed them out the freaking door. I've been like,
Right.
yes, how can we do this? How can we make this work for you? But I was unwilling for so long to do that for myself.
And here's the one thing I want to ask you, because I think everybody acts like it's a victim like position that they think like other people are doing this to them, like their perception is, but they're not. Like your spouse was supportive, your kids would be supportive, like your friends would be supportive. No one's sitting there holding you down saying you can't do this, but we do it to ourselves. Like we hold ourselves
Yeah.
hostage, like, no, I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to be happy. I'm not allowed to do things without my kids. I'm not allowed to do things without my
Right,
husband.
right, right.
And nobody's doing that to us. We are like doing it to ourselves
Right.
because that's what we were trained as children of generations prior, because that's how they were trained.
Right.
No, I can't speak up. No, I have to be a good girl. No, I can't have desires. You have to go make a living. You have to do this.
Keep your head down and work, and it's not supposed to be fun.
Right.
Yeah, that was
Why
the
is life
message.
not supposed to be
That was
fun?
a message, yeah, that we all got. And so I
That's
do
why I'm
want to
such a rebel.
well, yeah, same. But I think there's this, I want to qualify like there are women out there who
Yeah.
don't have the support, right?
Sure.
Don't have the person that is cheerleading them on like my spouse does. And there are people that, their spouse or whatever may be like, you can't use our money to do things like that. Like I want to
It's out
qualify
there
that.
for
It's
sure.
out there. What I want to say is for me, fortunately, that wasn't the problem,
Right.
but the problem was myself. The
Yeah.
problem was me getting to overcome those limiting beliefs of what I was entitled to or what I deserved in
Yeah.
life or where I stood in my own life. And that was a lot of the transformation that happened, was kind of understanding that.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that I was able to do that trip, to understand kind of the journey that got me to it, because it's changed a lot of my perspective on life, how I'm going to view things going forward, how I do things going forward. And I'm just grateful to have that in my background now, so that and that's where I want to inspire. It's like we tell ourselves all these things and they're just words. Most of them, like, not true. I ask my 8-year-old all the time when he's telling himself some story about himself. And I'm like, but is it true, honey? Like, and you gotta dig in and look at it.
I just heard there's this piece I'm going to do later about how you can basically close your eyes and then say to yourself a phrase. And then the guy says, "Did you hear that? You said something to yourself without speaking." And it is so true, because that inner thought process, and earlier, to kind of go back to a thought I had, was you were talking about little small shifts. If you think about when you are on a boat, if you just change the tiniest bit of like that rudder or whatever it is that causes that boat to turn a little bit, you can get completely off course.
Exactly. That's it's the 1 degree turns.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like you may feel like it's insignificant, but you need to do the small, maybe feeling insignificant things, because they are not insignificant. Those little baby steps, tortoise steps, strawberry steps are what gets you to that end goal of a big turn. And you may not feel it right away in that moment. It may take 6 months, but when you look back 6 months later, you're like, oh my God, that really small thing that I did for myself, I can't believe where I am now. Look at where I am right now,
100%. And that's what I say. It's like, you've got to start moving, but move with intention. And intention is so different than just hope. Like if you say, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do X, let's say you make kind of like a goal for yourself, rather than saying, well, I hope that will happen. Hope is like a balloon. It floats away. Like you want intention. It's like a guided missile, and you are like starting the energy flow in that direction. So like you just said, the 1 degree turns, the little turtle steps, the tortoise steps, I should say.
I love it.
But yeah. And so it's just an amazing, it takes time. People, it's not going to happen overnight, and that's the other thing.
You don't have to move mountains in a day.
Right. It's time.
Small, very small, measurable acts of behavior and consistency can turn someone's life around. Even if they are in a situation where they don't have the supportive spouse, or they don't have a spouse at all.
Right.
You still can make great changes in your life. And I can attest to that, because I was a single mom for a long time, and I consistently exercised hope with intention. And I did make big changes in my life, masterful changes that I felt defeated sometimes. And where am I at? What am I doing? But those small changes that I made and those beliefs that I had in myself brought me to where I am now. And like, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not about being perfect. We're never going to be perfect. We're human.
It's a work in progress. And I say that it's like, I'm not looking for an end destination. This is a journey. And like, I'm looking
enjoy
for
the journey,
those mountain views that you get along the way, basically. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for and shooting for, intending for. But your other question was about like working with a publisher. No, but you know what? Open to hearing anybody's, suggestions.
Or watch the podcast that I released with Lauren.
Right, I will.
Because she shares some of it, and it's like kind of amazing. It's like I think you'll find it like super helpful. It's like a life coach, but for your book. It's so crazy, and you're self-published.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm always looking at different resources, and I believe that as I continue on this journey and like intend for, it to be published, it will come together as I work towards it, and I'll find the resources, find the leads to do so.
It's coming.
My goal, I got to keep writing. That's the goal right now, is just to have the time to put it down on paper and get that crappy, shitty first draft out. It's a thing.
I don't even know if my friend Lauren did the shitty first draft. I'm gonna have to ask her now. I'm literally gonna text her when we're done.
Yeah, no, Anne Lamott always says that, and it's such a good way to look at it, because it allows you to just kind of like pour it all out, and brain dump it.
Brain dump.
And then half of it won't get kept, but at the
Yeah.
end of the day, you got it out. You can rework it. It's going to take time, but it's helpful to me because then I don't put so much pressure on myself while I'm writing,
Yeah, it gives you the framework.
Yeah.
And I just watched like a really weird story that was like, it was captioned and I watched the whole thing and that was what she would do. She would literally like narrate and like word dump and like put all the things in there and then come back later and refine it. And that's like
Yeah.
literally our lives too. We do what we do and then we come back and we refine it. How did that serve me? How did that help me? How did that not help me? Do I want to do that again? Like what was my return on investment on that behavior so that we work smarter and not overly exhausting ourselves. So, I mean, I think it's just like, that's a whole theme, girl. I mean, I think that's a great idea.
I'm excited to continue to kind of put it there. And no, thank you for being so encouraging. It's nice to have those voices in outside too. Because I got to keep it inside. I got to keep my voice high on the inside. Like, yeah, you can do this, and cheerlead myself. But it's
anytime
nice
you need a cheerleader, just call me. I'm like the best cheerleader. I'm like, you got this. You're amazing.
You're the hype girl. Like,
I'm the hype girl. Yeah,
I love it. I love it.
I know. I need to like hype girl myself sometimes, but I'm definitely the hype girl. I just believe in. I just believe. I'm a believer. I believe that if you're really, truly focused, passionate, and making intentional changes, that you can do it. And I've like seen amazing things from you. And I know that I'm going to, I mean, and look, what did you just get? What did you just citizen?
Yes.
Oh my God. I love it. She's a citizen of the year in our area, which is amazing.
Yes. Very honored. And I'm thankful for this community. And I do love, so when I was examining, like, what do I even like? Why do I like it? I figured out along the way is like, I love working with communities and groups and putting inspirational things together. And that's why I love doing the women's event committee and putting a event together that was positive.
Amazing.
And the energy
loved it
at that event really was buzzing with positivity and joy and connection for women in our local community. And it just made me so happy to see that. Because I truly believe women are innately good at figuring out how to solve problems together, how to encourage people to do their best and be their best. And they do it so naturally. And when we can harness that collective energy, it's pretty amazing what can happen. Like, I just was so excited by that whole
I'm super excited.
So we're doing it again.
I know. It's
in 2026. So I'm very excited.
Build, bigger, better. It's going to be even better.
Yeah.
That was an amazing start. And then I just can't wait to see how much it grows. Well, I know that we have to wrap things up, but thanks for coming. And we can always do a follow-up later. Because
anytime. It's so fun to talk. It's so fun to talk to people that get it, want to hear it and know it. So thank you for having me. And this has been a delight. I love, that you and I have gotten to know each other over the past couple months a lot deeper than who knew, right? This is a testament. You just never know.
You never know
what's coming into your life.
That's right.
So being open and receiving is like a big part of the game, people.
Watch out. I'm coming for you.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Tiff's out there.
I'm here. The question queen is coming for you.
No, but I love that. The curiosity is so awesome. I mean, that's what people need. God, who doesn't want to know about others? So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there.